So if we start by just introducing you to this wonderful young man. The young man that you can see on screen on our title page is called Stanley. Stanley is 7 years old. He is non-verbal. He is profoundly autistic. And Stanley's mom spoke with the team about the difficulties that they have as a family to find places that they can go to where they can experience great visitor opportunities, be in the landscape, learn about different things, but all at a rate that Stanley can experience. Now, we all like to go out to wonderful days out, and every family does. And as a team, we thought about how frustrating that must be, where you can't go anywhere or do anything because the experience there isn't set up for that child. And although we can't please everyone, what we felt was if we listened to Stanley's mom and we found a way to make Stanley feel happy and to make Stanley enjoy the landscape, then we could reach a much wider audience. So that was our starting point. And on this picture you can see Stanley's not looking particularly happy, but we'll see at the end of this presentation whether we managed to make Stanley enjoy Croome's opportunities. So there we go, yes. So, Potter and Ponder, these were some of the comments that we had from carers when we started to talk to people. We have a lot of people that come to Croome, a lot of carers that bring people to enjoy what we have on offer. And we have a really good following. So we had a chance to speak to those people really honestly and ask them what life's like being a carer. And these are some of the comments that we had, that there are very few mainstream visitor opportunities where you can really be part of, that being a carer is isolating, it's really hard work, it's stressful, and it's often really frightening. That carers face everyday battles with services, children's health, and just getting through the day. And we were really struck by that comment. And that carers want to go somewhere where they can feel honestly welcome. And that's about repeat visits. That's about creating a visitor experience where people are coming a lot, where staff and volunteers have understanding of those audiences' needs. We thought that was really important in our development. We want somewhere to go where we feel honestly welcome. And although Croome was doing that already, what we wanted to do was create an opportunity where we could absolutely go one stage further. And the comment that really struck us, that pushed us into action, was the landscape offers a unique opportunity to put the weight of the world to one side and enjoy a moment's peace as a family. And I think we can all agree that that is essential in our lives, that we have somewhere where we feel at peace with the world. So we, with all this information and with all this drive, we applied to CB 300. And there was an opportunity for funding, and myself and Katherine, along with admin support from Joe and creative support from Kiki, started to think about a project. Now, to do that at Croome, we begin by drawing up an activity brief. So that's ideas of what this could be, what we could offer, how we could create a bespoke experience. But we don't answer all the questions there. What we talk about are the positive outcomes. So what would we like this visitor experience to look like? The outputs we leave till the end because we actually work very closely with our audiences. There were success measures drawn up that was leaving clear room for co-production with the schools. We were delighted when we wrote the bid that we had a successful bid, and we were given £5,000 by CB 300 to start to make this idea to come to fruition. So as soon as we got that successful bid and we were over the moon, we started to make contact with appropriate schools in the local area. Now I just want to explain to you a little bit about what co-production is at Croome. We work directly with our audience, putting them at the heart of the development. We don't just go up to them and say, what do you like, what don't you like? We actually work with them so we get a real sense of what their desires and needs are. And by doing that, we create a really strong bond between the audience and the place. If you've had the opportunity as a visitor, as an audience member, to positively affect something about that visitor experience, then you've got a much closer bond. If you've made something that's there, then Croome's your home. Croome is a place where you've affected what happens to other people where they're there. You can be rightfully proud of it. And also we use the experience and learning from that co-production to ensure that Croome is a place that's created and loved by a diverse audience. And the beauty of working in this way is that Croome becomes more relevant, exciting and engaging, and it keeps work relevant. And relevance is essential in developing a family of visitors that want to come back time and time again. So, why do this project at Croome?
Well, the National Trust motto is forever for everyone. We really wanted to embrace that and make our place absolutely accessible for everybody, whatever requirements they had. And although Croome is a really important place historically, with capability grounds first, complete landscape, we didn't necessarily feel that that has to be the focus of a visit. It could be that the visit is about enjoying the space, the sounds that you can hear in nature, the textures of the buildings and the natural environment, and just the views and the scenery as well. So we wanted to make this Croome a truly accessible place for everybody.
And we wanted to look at ways of translating the landscape in a different way, and actually working directly with the audience to unlock what that is. So seeing the world through their eyes gives us a very different viewpoint. By doing that, we wanted to open up the landscape and to learn better ways to engage the audience and others, so not just this particular audience. Although the creation of this piece of experience was bespoke, this can be enjoyed by all and actually is being enjoyed by all. So by doing that, it's a live project. We're learning about people's likes, dislikes, desires and needs of the children, the staff and the carers, and becoming a much better informed property. We wanted to, as Katherine said, improve the accessibility and resources on site. But by having these children and these staff and these carers, this incredible resource is what they were and are to us. Not only are they family now, but also they were like consultants. We were learning to be comfortable here, but we were learning to be comfortable working with them also, which was key to the success of the project. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about the amazing people we worked with, and we cannot say enough good things about these people. They are total experts in their field.
So the first one is the CB300 gang. We have felt really supported throughout the application for the funding, and then beyond that as well. We felt really supported by them as a group of people for what we're doing at Croome, and that was really important for us to have that backing. It just sort of gave us a bit more, I suppose, comfort that we were kind of that we were heading in the right direction. So that was really great, and they've been a wonderful team to be working with.
Obviously we're a National Trust property, and we had lots of people in the Trust to talk to and discuss the idea with. But the schools that we worked with, who were just simply amazing. Our Regency High, which is the logo you'll see with the 4 different dancing flags. There's a blue one, a green one, a yellow one and a red flag. And they are children, they're secondary age children, and they're children with moderate to severe learning disabilities. Fort Royal is a community primary school, again working with children with moderate to severe learning disabilities. Both of those schools are in Worcestershire. Acorns Children's Hospice, who work and support the children and families, children who have life-limiting conditions, and they're in Worcestershire. And finally, Sunfield School, which is slightly further away, it's in Clent. And Sunfield work with some of the most profoundly autistic children in the world. So we have an amazing spread of specialisms, understanding, and some of the most incredible children we've had the pleasure to work alongside. Oh, and I should say before we move on, you'll see a logo in the middle that says Outside In, and we'll talk to you a little bit more about Outside In. That's a project that was key to the success of how we worked and what we did.
So moving on to the sort of practical side of things, and actually asking the schools to come and visit. They made their visits in June and July. That was the 3 schools and Acorns brought some children, and just it was absolutely wonderful for me as an individual to sort of to see how the children were experiencing the landscape and nature, and just giving them a chance to come out and just have a great time at Croome. And you know, I learned a lot as an individual, sort of experiencing this sort of group of children, and some more of them, and they're touching and feeling the bark on the trees. The little girl on the left-hand side was banging the bench to sort of hear the echoes inside the grotto there. So, you know, really, really good to see them enjoying themselves and having a really good time out in the park.
And that's key, I think, the word enjoying themselves, that this was a project where, although they were the experts and we were learning with them, we made sure that the exercises and the work we did was appropriate to them, that they enjoyed it and had a fantastic day. And one of the most beautiful and emotional outcomes from the project was a little boy who'd never spoken, who learnt the word wow during his visits to Croome, and says it quite often because so many times he'd heard someone say wow about the landscape. So sharing that infectious desire to be in a place was really important.
Yeah, that was lovely. And then leading on from their visits, each school did some feedback for us and sort of highlighted what experiences each individual child had really enjoyed and what sort of thing they'd love to do, and this really gave us some good insight into how the children were experiencing Croome and some of the sort of key sensory experiences that we would focus on a bit further down the line in the project.
So we got all of this incredible information. All of the school visits had happened. We'd found correlations between children's enjoyment of the landscape. So we'd worked together to map where those sensory moments were. And key to the success of that was we weren't saying what moments we thought worked, although we could see moments, oh no, that'd be good to put in there. We stopped ourselves from doing that. And we only catalogued the moments that the children enjoyed. And to get that information for some children that were totally non-verbal, the teachers tracked their eye movements, their smiles, their laughter. All of these were what we used to measure enjoyment. And so we got this incredible map of ideas now of where we knew where these sensory opportunities were in the landscape. And these are sensory opportunities that we wouldn't have spotted. The children spotted them because they lived through a sensory world. So then we approached Pallant House Gallery, which is in West Sussex, to work with their project Outside In. Outside In are one of the most inspirational groups that I've ever heard of or worked with. And they're a group that work with artists with different specific needs to support them in becoming commercial artists, to support them in becoming artists that live and work as an artist and earn a living is doing that. So when we began to work with Outside In, we usually send out a quite complex artist brief, but we had to learn by this experience. And we worked with Outside In to create an accessible artist brief. And that was refreshing for us. We stripped back all of the rhetoric that's often in those artist briefs and made it as clear and concise as possible. And by working with Pallant to do that, we learned a new skill. And we learned how to make those briefs more communicative. So the brief was then sent out via Outside In, and they put out an open call for all of their artists. We were delighted that 9 artists responded and said they'd really like to work with us. And each of those 9 artists sent us a collection of example pictures, of examples of their style. And they were all really different styles, weren't they? Vast array of styles. Now this part is really important. The teachers then worked with the children to select which artist they liked. Not which artist Katherine, myself, Kiki and Joe liked, or the teachers. The artist that the children liked. Now, I'm going to be really honest now, we did have our favourites. And we had to be really careful not to communicate that, because this was about finding a style of illustration that resonated with the children, that made them feel comfortable, that attracted them. And actually I had the very difficult job of adjudicating, which was really hard, between all of the schools. I should say at this point that one little boy refused to select an artist, and the teacher said, oh, well, I've got all of the results apart from Stanley's, and we smiled because that's Stanley's story we started with, and we said, well, we're not willing to continue at this point until we've got Stanley's idea as well. We don't mind holding up the process, that's fine. So we held the process up for 2 weeks while Stanley made his decision, and that was again tracked via eye contact, by smiles, by pointing. And once we got Stanley's decision in too, we took all of those ideas out, and William Hanneken, by a landslide, was the artist the children selected. He was always in the top 1 or 2, but normally the top 1. He came out and out winner, and an absolute pleasure to work with. Moving my notes, sorry, to make sure I've got William's picture. So William came to Croome. He worked with us. Can you just move that slide down to, oh no, sorry, I just unveiled the map, I do apologise. William came to Croome. Oh, we should rewind a little bit. We made a bit of a mistake, and we've really learnt by this, in that we were sending, we sent all of the sensory moments to William, and we described where they were. And we suddenly realised in the process that William hadn't been to Croome, which was a ridiculous point to have got to. That was completely our fault, but we just never thought about it. So we had a wonderful day with William and his parents. They came to Croome, they had a look around, they experienced each point in the landscape, because we've been describing that before. But for him to actually experience it really took his work up a notch. Also as well, some very important learning. When we began, we were editing William's work, and we as a team stepped back and said, no, we're not going to do that. William, you were selected because it was your style the children wanted to experience. I think William was quite relieved when we stepped back, and actually his work was the better for us stepping back. And we had to learn to do that, because often working with artists, we spend a lot of time debating ideas and working with them, and that wasn't what this project was about. This project was about getting William to translate those sensory moments. And this is the map.
Our visitor map for navigation around the site. It's a large site. In total it's over 700 acres, but this route covers the main kind of visitor route with hard surface path. And you can just see that we've got about a dozen different locations with suggested sensory experiences, and the locations where you can sort of experience those. It's throughout the park and the garden, and you can just see Willie work within the little circles, and then a little suggestion around those as to what you could do at that location. And yeah, we're really delighted with how it's turned out, and that has now been printed and is available at our visitor reception for anybody who would like to pick one up, and it's also available as a download from our website, from the Croome website. So we're trying to sort of get the message out and encourage as many people as possible to just have a look at that and have a go at using it, really.
I think it's really important, one point that Katherine made there about it being suggestions. The vast array of situations that people are faced with that are carers and in a caring role means that they are the experts, and they have to select their moments and opportunities. So these are just suggestions of what they could do, what they could experience. And actually, rewinding the process a little, we started with 3 routes and 3 trails that we were going to do. And we got rid of that idea because we felt it was too prescriptive. And you may have a situation where parents didn't feel they'd experienced what they wanted to because they hadn't got to the end of the trail, and we didn't want to do that. We just wanted to give opportunities in the landscape. And actually it's created some really interesting debate for us Just looking at the making choices circle that's towards the bottom of the map, actually the children being able to make their own choices that the staff did with the children when they came and visited was really important, and to encourage parents to let their children make some choices, because and staff and volunteers said, is that really a sensory experience? And that's opened up an opportunity where we've been able to talk to them about what the limitations are with this audience, but also what the opportunities are and how we've got to maximise on those enjoyment opportunities. So that's our map that we're very proud of, that's being used very regularly, not just by people from this audience, but all people at Croome are experienced. And that was one of our success measures, that it was a bespoke piece of visitor experience, but could be enjoyed by all who came to Croome.
So, exciting bit next, we had a big party. So we had a launch party in September. We invited everybody along who'd been involved, all of the schools, as well as the children's parents, William and his parents, obviously, and Carol from CB300 came along. And we, thank goodness, it was a nice sunny afternoon.
Thank goodness. Nightmares about that.
Yeah, and then so this was the launch party. We had a bit of sort of party food, and it was a lovely afternoon. And we handed the map round. Everybody was really pleased to see what their work had actually produced, you know, and what it had led to. And then it was just great to see people going off and using it, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, it was a really lovely kind of celebratory launch afternoon.
And it was, and it was very much about the children. In both of our speeches, we stood and thanked them and said, you have been the experts here. And I think for all of us, there were beautiful moments. One young man's mum came up and spoke to me and said, I'm really proud of him. Mm-hmm. Not only has he made this incredible map, but he's done it for the National Trust. And that's when you realise the power of a logo and the power of an organisation, which is nationally important, and how wonderful for a child that probably hasn't been able to access or engage in a majority of things that children would, competitions, opportunities, for him to do something for the National Trust. And that was just beautiful to hear. It really was. Oh, we're just trying to move our screen again. Sorry, we appear to. Oh, here we are.
There we go.
So here are some tweets that we had some fantastic responses to the opening of the map and the map. And actually, by working with lots of different partner groups, it meant that word really got out there. So you can see here, not only does National Croome shared it, but also outside in. So we're working with a different audience there. Here on Facebook, we've got Sensory Sensitive Mummy, we've got Sunfield School and Acorns Children's Hospice. So we're quadrupling our social media presence by working with lots of people's social media. Worcester News, National Trust, or there's my tweet.
Worcestershire Council.
Worcestershire Council. So again, constantly developing awareness of this opportunity at Croome and how we're open to and actually really want to work with new audiences. Again, the Landscape Institute yourselves are on there. There's the Redditch Advisor, Heart of England. Not sure what that one is.
Yeah, the press.
The press.
Yeah, it was great. The coverage was really varied, and it was great to see both online and local press giving this really the attention that it deserved.
I think we have one more that's local press.
Yeah. And thanks to Mark for helping with putting all this together.
Absolutely, and that we should talk about this. We are incredibly lucky to have Mark Grimshaw and Victoria Cronin and Tracy Blackwell and the marketing team at Croome, who worked really, really hard to get the word out and became complete ambassadors for the project. That's really important, to get your internal advocates supporting this to go external, because it's all well and good having this amazing opportunity at Croome. It's another thing about getting the word out, and that was really necessary, bringing those people on board who took this project to heart. That was great. So, I think here we've got finance, Katherine.
Yeah, a spreadsheet. So just a bit of a breakdown so you can understand the costing of the project. We applied for 5,000 from CB300, and as you can see from the breakdown, we actually haven't spent all of it. So we allowed 200 for each of the schools and for Acorns to enable them to actually make their visits. And that was mainly spent on transport and some of the refreshments when they were actually here. And these are, there have been, I think, a few more visits.
Yes,
since
there have.
Yeah.
And we did say that schools, that was the money we could give, and we explained. And we did say that schools were welcome to use that funding in whichever way they needed to. It could have been to backfill a role. It could have been for transport. And actually, the schools really supported us by finding extra pots of money from their budgets to ensure that, and actually we thought at first it was going to be one visit per school, but schools such as Sunfield came back 7 or 8 times, and that £200 would nowhere near have covered that. It was them going out to their own internal budgets and supporting the project, again, in a different way.
So then we've also got the costs for the creation of the map, William's time, to create his artwork, the printing costs. The consultants from Acorns, the role that we had actually envisaged for that, it morphed massively during the project. And so as a result, there's a big underspend there. But we'll talk about what we're going to spend some of the other money on in agreement, obviously, with CB300 a bit later. And then just those launch, the opening events, catering at the launch party. So, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for £2,500,
we've got a lot from.
Yeah, we feel that we've achieved a lot. So,
and just to expand a little bit further about the change in the Acorns budget there, it was so important. When we began the project, we needed our hands holding, and we worked with Acorns, and they had a member of staff whose current role would have allowed her to have been on every single one of those visits and supporting the project in a very different way as a holistic practitioner. What actually happened was she was promoted and got a different role, so Acorns couldn't support us in the way that they'd first envisioned. However, they were absolutely key to those first stages. They gave us confidence, they gave us support, they gave us advice, and so when they couldn't actually engage to the level they at first wanted to, it meant that first confidence boost had given us the opportunity to work in a different way with the school staff. And what we found was, and we might not have found this before had we not been in that new situation with Acorns, what we found was the school staff are absolute experts too. They're not only experts in their own children, they're experts as sensory practitioners. So there's a really important learning there on both sides. So our evaluation, we're currently completing our evaluation, and we started by going out to the schools and asking them what they felt, what was good, what was bad, what we could do more of, what we should do less of, and it was a really open evaluation. And actually, because I knew the connection that the schools now had with Croome, I made sure that I did contact each of them and say, we need you to be as honest as possible, because if we're going to develop, if we're going to grow, we need your advice and guidance. So the schools were really honest, which is what we wanted. And they said that because of our co-production, they felt included, respected, welcome, understood, and important. And that word important was just music to our ears, that they felt empowered to be on the site, they felt empowered to be part of a really interesting process, that they enjoyed exploring the landscape in an accessible way that has an exciting outcome. So it wasn't just about coming on a school visit, it was about creating something which would be at Croome for much longer. They'd like to work with us again and create more experiences, which we would love to do and are looking at ways to do that. But they felt at the heart of the process. That's really important to us. If you think back to those initial success criteria, that's what we say about co-production here at Croome, that our co-producers feel at the heart of the process, not on the periphery, but right at the very centre of what we do. But they learned about Capability Brown, and we had some pictures that came in from school that they were doing landscape pictures of Capability Brown, so that kind of engagement with Brown would not have happened without this project. But the teachers, students and parents loved the work and felt rightfully proud. The teachers, but for us, the teachers, students and parents gave us some amazing tips on how we could improve. It really was like having a group of mini consultants, and they are complete experts in how they experience
have a day out.
Yeah, the outside and and sensory opportunities. And most importantly, we gained a whole new audience and family of supporters, and they have already come back and back, which is really important.
So for us, next steps at Croome, it's important that this isn't a sort of project in isolation. We want this to carry on and just for Croome to become more and more accessible. And as a result of working with the schools and the families, we've realised that actually we need a bit of access and inclusion training for all staff and volunteers, so that we as a group become more confident in working with groups, families that maybe we're not used to seeing so much, and just us understanding a lot more about working with them, making their visit to Croome a lot easier. And so the second thing on the slide there is about making the visit easier for families with extra needs. And one thing we've already done as a result of this sort of new understanding is to install an adult changing bed in our visitor centre. So, we had baby changing facilities, which is sort of pretty standard across the board, but for us to have a space where older children have got that facility if they need it, then that was really, really important for this group. We're also looking at getting some Makaton signage around the site, which is basically sort of symbols rather than words, so pictures to represent different facilities, different things around the site. So we're going to hopefully get onto that quite quickly.
Yes. And we're actually going to create a resource to go with the map that's Makaton sentences that carers can use with their children to describe the different sensory experiences. One of the evaluation points that came up very strongly from every school was that we needed to clarify the primary use of the accessibility buggy, that some conditions aren't visible.
Just to get people from the...
Yeah, oh sorry, I should explain.
Yeah.
To get them from the top to the bottom, we have a buggy that moves through the landscape.
Yeah, like a little bus to take people from the visitor centre down to the court, because it's a reasonable distance, and yeah, we just wanted to make it clear that it's for everybody, and although it's sometimes they're a priority sort of visitors, aren't they?
Yes, but that not all conditions are easily visible, and that will be part of our volunteer and staff training. The possibility of considering a quiet space indoors, that there is a need for a space, and that might be difficult for us to arrange, but it's something that we've started a conversation about. But most importantly, now we know how powerful this work is for Croome and our visitors, we intend to do much more and spread the word. And I have a personal vested interest in this, because if you remember me when we were trying to get the webcam to work, then this picture may make some sense. So Stanley on the first picture wasn't smiling, but on this last picture, there's a picture of Stanley, although he's got very different hair on this picture and he's smiling, and there's a picture of Stanley's mum. That's me. And I'm really lucky, although I'm a carer, so life has its logistics, I'm really, really lucky that I work in one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world with some of the most talented and understanding people. So when I sat with Katherine and said, let's find a way to make this happen, Katherine sort of bit my hand off and really wanted to do it. And it takes a special kind of person to do that. So I'm immensely proud of the people I work with, and immensely moved by the fact that they wanted to do something for an audience that is seldom heard and it isn't visible. And for me, as a mum, to sort of have Stanley's workbook come back from school and it's saying, Stanley's had a fantastic day, he's been to Croome, he's done this, he's done that. I can't tell you how amazing that is. And I'm very proud not only of the team I work with, but also of my little boy who helped create this map, which I can tell you is firmly on our fridge and always will be.
I think that was a very, very kind of comprehensive summary of your story there and what's going on and the work at Croome and everything. It was really, really interesting to find out, you know, where the money's been spent and how useful it's been, and what you guys have achieved, which is fantastic, you know, down to really making a difference to those kids' lives and you know, future, you know, not just children as well, adults and all, you know, all different people around. So it has been really, really helpful and really, really interesting to have you talk today, guys. So thank you very, very much.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So I think that's it for today. So I'm going to wrap this up and use it to also say, please tune in next week when I will have had everything sorted and join in to hear about managing Japanese knotweed. Bit of a different one there, and that's from John Barton. So we're taking a different turn, different subject, and that's next week with John Barton. Same time, same place, Thursdays at 1. But for now, thank you very much to Rachel and to Katherine. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.